everyone. Today we're going to talk about the fifth episode of The Ones Who Live, entitled Become. Now, I have to say off the bat that while I did overall enjoy this episode, I have to say it's my least favorite of the five that we've gotten so far. There were a lot of good elements in it, but overall it just wasn't up to par compared to the others. And I like the fact that they reference and they had a lot of moments similar to the original show, but we all know, the original series had its flaws at points, right? So I'm going to talk about this episode based on character grouping. So I'm going to talk about Gabriel and Jadis with Richonne, and then Richonne. And at the end, I'll talk about miscellaneous things that I picked up along the way. So let's start. Gabriel showing up was a huge surprise to me. I knew that at least one person from the original series was going to show up here, and I just assumed it would be RJ and Judith, because I thought it'd be somebody who'd be interacting with Rick and Michonne. But when I saw Gabriel, in hindsight, it made sense because he was the only person who had any sort of relationship with Jadis, or really Anne, in Alexandria. Gabriel and Jadis's annual meetups. What do I think about the secrecy of that? I don't really like it in hindsight, because I do think Gabriel should have told at least the council that Anne had access to some people in a helicopter, because that's good information to know. Obviously, they have helicopters, they're pretty advanced. Like, who knows what they could have done to Alexandria. I don't really find it that shocking, though, because Gabriel has proven himself to be a bit of a cagey person who doesn't share information. And when I think back to season 11, when Gabriel, Maggie, Negan, Daryl are at Meridian fighting the Reapers, and Gabriel runs into that preacher guy, and he doesn't tell Maggie anything about it, even though Maggie explicitly told all of them to keep the communication going, and she point blank asked him, and he didn't say anything, right? Ultimately, that situation worked out, but he really should have divulged that information. So I'm not surprised he didn't say anything to the council there at Alexandria. In terms of Jadis having these annual meetups with Gabriel, I don't really know how I feel about it, because I feel as though it's a lot of retconning done by the writers, but do I actually believe that Jadis cared so much to touch base to see how Alexandria's doing? I don't know. I don't know if I believe that. I don't really know if I believe that she cares so much about the community, or the fact that there is a community that's there and doing relatively well. I don't know if I believe that. Like, I do believe that she wouldn't provide resources, because I think Gabriel mentioned that they were in the Whisperer War at the time. So I believe that she would keep that information to herself, like not reveal anything about the CRM, not dole out any kind of, food items or whatever. I believe that. But I don't really believe that she cared that much. And I feel, for the purposes of this episode, that it was written that way to make her look a little more sympathetic when she eventually died, but she hasn't shown herself to be a sympathetic person throughout this entire series. Like, she's been pretty awful to Rick, and obviously later on we'll talk about how she tried to kill Rick and Michonne in that cabin, right? So, I don't know. Like, I wasn't completely insulted by it. I just don't really know if I 100% buy it. It was nice to see Gabriel and have that bit of a tie-in there, but I wasn't really too moved. And it felt as though some of the conversations that they were having were meant to parallel conversations Rick and Michonne were having last week. So there are some points where Gabe was telling Jadis that she was lying to herself, she's not being honest with her true feelings and things like that. And he doesn't believe that she's truly bought into the CRM. So is that meant to make me feel as though she's redeemable, like Rick is redeemable? I don't really buy it. So, that didn't really work for me, but it didn't really insult me either. So I guess it's okay. Okay, let's talk about Jadis and Richonne. So I 100% believe that she wouldn't buy the fact that they died in that crash, right? Makes sense. And, dead walkers killed walkers. Okay, human activity was going on. And the missing yellow truck. Yes, that truck was very conspicuous. So it being gone, I would notice that as well. But the idea that they left breadcrumbs for her the breadcrumbs of the ramen packages. Like, come on, Jadis, that doesn't make any sense. For one, I don't believe that Rick and Michonne were just eating this while they're in the car and rolling down the windows and like tossing out orange packages every 5 seconds, enough to leave a breadcrumb trail. Also, it's plastic, so it would fly away. And no, I don't buy that, but whatever. Okay, so she found them. She found them in the cottage. Of the two, Michonne was way more irrational and emotional than Rick was when she was shooting at Jadis when she was leaving the room. And Rick reminded her, she's got the dossier. We can't shoot at her right now. We need to find the information out. And Michonne knows this, but she was just running really hot. The car crash scene made me so nervous because Michonne was running hot. And even in general, for any TV show, any movie, whenever I see car chases, I always think like, this could go badly for both of you guys. You never know how it's going to end up. But, luckily, Jadis got the worst of it. It was funny later on when they were in the woods looking for Jadis, Michonne said, I'm going to kill her. I'm going to kill her. And Rick's like, yeah, you can do that, but maybe maim her first. It's like, yeah, we got to get her to talk. We can't kill her before it happens. And when she met up with those hapless people in the crowd, I was kind of confused why she was looking at the girl at first saying, you're tall. And it's like, okay, she's tall. But then I figured out that she would make a good decoy or a good distraction to pose as Jadis because Jadis is tall and she's tall. It's like, oh, okay. I am still a little confused when Jadis says that if she were to let Rick and Michonne go back, the CRM would find out about her arrangement with them. I'm still confused. So does she mean that, okay, if she's still alive and Rick and Michonne go back home and they find them, they would rat and say, well, I came with this Jadis lady, and then she'd be in trouble, I guess, from that perspective. But what if they just agreed to like not say anything? I guess from her perspective, I guess she can't really trust that, which makes sense. But I wish that this arrangement and how their futures are bound was a bit more concisely talked about because it just seems so nebulous, but like whatever. Jadis was very stealthy when she arrived in the cabin, and that was a tense situation, and she came in hot. She very easily could have killed them right there. So that's like for me, towards the end of the episode, it was very hard for me to think of things from Rick and Michonne's perspective and have any sympathy towards her. Because she's always been inconsistent. She's always been a flip-flopper. She's been an opportunist from day one. She'll change her mind on a dime. You can make deals with her. She'll back out of deals in a hot second. She has shot Rick before. One of her people beat Michonne up to a pulp. She's threatening to kill everyone in Alexandria, their children. She's even taunting them, knowing that she's going to die because she's been losing a lot of blood, saying, well, if I die from blood loss, if I die from being shot by one of you guys, if I die from a walker killing me, your kids are dead. It's like, well, great, thank you. So why should I feel anything towards you? She's been menacing them for this entire time. She took Rick to begin with, so, I wouldn't feel bad for her one bit. The only times I felt any degree of sympathy for Jadis is when Simon killed all her people. That was pretty bad. And also that one time, it was after Carl died, Rick and Michonne went to the trash heap and she was all down and out and they were leaving and they left in a way, I think like some of the junk fell down. They left so that she wasn't able to come out with them. So she was stuck in there and she had to fend for herself. I felt a little bad for her in that situation, but I haven't felt bad for her ever since. She's been horrible. She's been a really entertaining character for me to watch. But again, from their perspective, she's been terrible to them. So why? And again, there was some point where Rick's talking about, let's make a deal. I'm like, Rick, you can't make deals with her, okay? So I kind of like the whole back and forth in that scene. I was like, I don't really care because she'll get you. She doesn't care about you guys. She cares about herself. I did find it odd towards the end, I guess, when she got bit and she knew it was time to go. And I suppose the whole meetings with Gabe was supposed to make me feel a certain way, where she just complained, or she was having her dying declaration time. So she was saying how she wished she died as an artist and how she spilled all the information about where the dossier was, even though I figured that's where it would be because she moved to the Cascades, and also her being so secretive and keeping things to the belt, I wouldn't assume that she put it in a storage locker or give it to somebody else, because I don't think she would want to give anyone else that kind of power to have that information. So yeah, it's in her room. Okay, fine. And then kind of jumping back to what happened in the Gabriel sequences. For one, I thought it was highly odd that Gabriel had that ring in his pocket just then. But whatever. And I found it odd that Jadis happened to be carrying it with her to give it to Rick. It's like, I guess so. I don't know. And I said in the one of the videos I did beforehand that, like, as much as Jadis has been hitting on Rick this entire time, again, if Rick, for some freak reason, were to say, yeah, I'll take you up on that, she would say yes, no problem. But I really do think she just did that to get under his skin, to like really annoy him. I don't know. I never got the sense that she cared for Michonne, like, at all. Like, I didn't think she hated her. I didn't think she liked her. So for her to give Rick the ring and said, yeah, well, Gabe said you want to marry her, so here's your choice. It was like, am I supposed to like Jadis now? I don't, because I don't, at least not from their perspective. But she did it. But yeah, so I would say I really enjoyed Jadis in this series. I've liked Jadis in this series way more than I did in the original series. I didn't watch World Beyond, so I can't talk about that. And it's because of Pollyanna. I think Pollyanna, she killed all her scenes. She's a great actress. So I'm, in a way, like, me personally, I'm kind of going to miss Jadis a bit. But in terms of the storyline and Rick and Michonne and what they need to do, I'm glad she's gone, because she's always a threat, because she is, again, always so inconsistent. So I'm glad she's dead. As for Rick and Michonne, I really loved their scenes this episode, particularly the ones at the beginning, because it was nice to see them smiling, right? They're finally happy. They're on their way home. They've got a good car to get them there. They've got food. We've got Tony Bennett playing. Everything is nice and happy. And I really loved the scene when they were walking towards the cabin, because I love the walking in the woods scenes. I know a lot of people think that dragged on a lot too much in like season 4 and season 5, but I love the outdoor scenes. And at least with this, they're going to a cabin. They're not just walking around aimlessly. So that was nice. When they were in that gift shop, I loved all the references they made to the original story. So Michonne mentioning that Judith has a sword now. Rick talking about how he fell in love with his son's best friends, which was so sweet. And I personally think he fell in love with her after all the stuff that went down with the Claimers. And if not then, definitely by the time they reach Alexandria, like season 5, episode 12, 11-ish, when they were, at that point, to me, kind of solidified as like a nuclear unit. Whether they were romantic or not, they were definitely a unit as a family. So cute. And also when he mentioned the toothpaste. So when you think back of it, I had to remember, like, that in their timeline, that was like 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago. So it's been a long time. So I'm so happy they're reunited. And Rick is back. Rick is so back to the Rick that we all know and love. He's smiling. He's happy with Michonne. He's wanting to learn more about his son. I personally think he should have taken that junior license plate, because if nobody else calls him Junior, maybe he can start calling him Junior. So I know Rick was really very good with the gifts this week. So, who knows? Rick and Michonne are a team once again. Them dealing with those 3 in the woods was child's play. They could have dealt with them with their eyes closed, obviously. And I'm so glad they're back on the same page. One thing I will say, which I mentioned in a previous video, is that the 2 of them together sometimes they get a little cocky, a bit over their heads. So there were some points where Michonne said, Rick, you couldn't deal with CRM on your own, but the 2 of us, we can deal with it. It's like, yes, you guys are very powerful and effective on your own, but let's dial expectations down like a little bit. I don't know if that's just me, or if you feel the same way about them too, let me know. And the Richonne wedding. I always thought of them as married anyway, after all this time, even though there was a big gap in between when they were, physically separated, but they were together for a long time. They raised Judith. They have another kid. So they were basically married in my mind. And to me, what was kind of cool about this whole ring situation was It wasn't like a proposal to me. To me, it was just straight up marriage vows because Rick didn't ask Michonne any questions and she didn't answer him. He just said, you put things back together onto my dying day or my last breath, I'm yours. And she said, I never knew there was a love like this before, basically. And she said, I'm yours as well. And they sealed it with a kiss. So it was nice. I wish we saw him put the ring on the finger, though, but not a big deal. So now we can officially say they are husband and wife. So that was a nice capper to things. Some miscellaneous things to mention. I found in this episode, one thing that kind of made things a little improbable are some of the conveniences that were there. So say, for example, when they found that minivan that had all those boxes of ramen, it's hard for me to believe that after 10, 15, however many years this thing has been going on, that there are still boxes upon boxes of ramen available in a minivan that was parked pretty close to the entrance of whatever that parking lot situation was. Didn't really believe that, but I was happy that they had it, so I'm willing to let that go. Also, them finding the keys to the cabin right there. I didn't really believe that. And even some of the stuff that was in the gift shop, there were some pots and spoons and things like that. I would think that those things would be taken. And my only thing that I'm willing to kind of let that slide is that I looked at the population for Wyoming as a whole, and Wyoming only has like 500 and something thousand people. And I don't exactly know where they were, but it was obviously very, remote. It was in the mountains and stuff. So I'm guessing, okay, there aren't that many people in that area. So I'm willing to let that slide. The product placement in this series is pretty conspicuous. Last week, it was the Roomba. And this week was the Johnny Walker Black Label whiskey. It's like, wow, that was right there. They really zoomed up on it. And I saw people saying that like, oh, it says Walker and we talk about Walkers. I'm like, no. This was product placement. I know Rick is a whiskey. It's whiskey, right? A whiskey man these days. Or Scott. I don't know. I don't really drink too much hard liquor, but I know he's been drinking a lot. And speaking of drinking a lot, if you notice when he poured out those glasses for he and Michonne, he polished off his glass in like 30 seconds and Michonne barely drank a little bit of it. And for me personally, if I were Michonne and I'm presuming that she hasn't had much alcohol in a long time, I don't know if I'd be drinking hard liquor, especially when I'm in a cabin. Like, it's one thing if you're in Alexandria or you're in Rick's apartment in the CRM, you feel pretty secure. I would not want to be drunk in a cabin ever. I like the fact that Michonne brought up a quick throwaway line about how uptight Thorne seems to be, right? Because those are conversations that we all have, right? We're all judging people, like, let's keep it real. And we talk to people about it. And in the old show, that didn't really happen, right? And I remember listening to a podcast in season 7, right after Jadis was introduced. And the podcaster was saying, in reference to Jadis's weird manner of speaking with the very scant sentence structure, he said, wouldn't Rick and Michonne just have like a quick line saying, why is she talking like that? She's so weird. You know what I mean? Like little things like that. So I do appreciate how, in general, the dialogue in this series is just more natural than it was in the original series. As I mentioned before, I'm not trying to keep up with the timelines anymore because it's just all over the place. I just can't, and I don't really care. But I saw a lot of people saying that, oh, Gabriel was cheating on Rosita when he met up with Anne. And I think that at that point, Rosita was dead, right? Because Rosita's been dead for she was dead for a year when the show ended. And I'm not quite sure how things are syncing up right now. And also I heard someone say that Rosita and Gabe broke up. I've heard that since back in the original show, but I cannot recall the instance where that happened. So if you guys know which episode they broke up in, could you let me know? Because that went over my head apparently. And those are my thoughts for this episode. I'm looking forward to the finale very much. I have no idea how they're going to wrap all this up in just one episode. This can't be the last season because there's just too much to do. So anyway, I would like to know what you guys thought about this one. So leave your comments in the comments area. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Come back because I'm going to do my thoughts on the trailer for the finale. And yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you for watching me here on I See Melanie, and I'll see you later.